You know, we tend to look at news from Congress as though what happens there is driven by forces that are purely inside Washington, D.C. It's understandable, right? You're covering stuff that happens in Washington, so you look around in Washington to see what explains what just happened. I continue to believe, though, that if you really want to understand why Republicans are failing again to pass their health bill, right? Why Republicans with Republican control of the House, Republican control of the Senate, and a Republican in the White House who would likely sign anything labeled health care, why these folks cannot pass the one thing they all agreed on and campaigned on, which was repealing Obamacare. Why can't they do it? I don't think that it can be explained in Washington. I think in order to understand that, you might also look around at what is happening right where you live. For example, take the 9th District in Virginia. It's represented by this guy, Congressman Morgan Griffith. He's a Republican congressman from Virginia. He voted to repeal Obamacare. His constituents say if the Republican health care bill becomes law, 62,000 people in his district, 62,000 of his constituents will lose their health insurance. To help drive that point home, they made him a visual aid. This weekend, Virginia Congressman Griffith's constituents spent their Sunday piecing together 62,000 little strips of paper, stapling them into a giant paper chain. Remember you used to make those in elementary school? Every link in their paper chain represents an individual person in that district who they say would lose all health insurance under the Republican health care plan to repeal Obamacare. 62,000. They pieced it all together. They laid it out flat across a football field. The whole thing clocked in around 3 miles long. Then they stuffed all 15,000 plus feet of it into bags, into trash bags, and delivered this chain to their congressman, to Morgan Griffith. Grassroots efforts against the Republican bill did not take the weekend off this weekend, leading into these dramatic developments in Capitol Hill tonight. Tucson, Arizona, you know how hot it is in mid-July? Tucson, Arizona, protesters braved just brutal heat outside of Senator John McCain's office. A few people even brought umbrellas with them to stay cool. Over in North Carolina, Congressman Patrick McHenry's constituents spruced up his office's road sign. You see, his office is listed there at the bottom of the official sign, but now it's decorated with tombstones to remind him about people who could die in his district if they lose all health insurance because of the Republican bill. Also, here's a sparsely pocketed pocket of California where a good-sized group of people turned out to talk to their congressman, Paul Cook. When they found out Paul Cook's office was closed, they just stood downstairs chanting, "We'll be back, we'll be back." When the Senate got to work today in Washington, D.C., they could barely make it through the door. Protests started in the Senate atrium in Washington, D.C., people chanting their stories about how Obamacare helped save their lives. Capitol Police gave their first warning to clear the area. The protesters sat down on the ground. Police started rounding them up. They folded up their banners and made arrests. Some people did make it upstairs, though. About 15 activists crammed into Nevada Senator Dean Heller's office. They wrote him a song to the tune of "For He's a Jolly Good Fellow." Except they changed the words to "You should vote no on Trump care." The rhymes are a little strained, but I get it. Over at Ohio Senator Rob Portman's office, protesters were slightly less jolly. They were yelling, "Your job is on the line. Your job is on the line." Eventually, they were kicked out of that office. They parked themselves on the floor right outside the senator's office door. Police made more arrests there, including this woman in a wheelchair who kept chanting as she and her friends were put in zip ties. More than 30 people were arrested at the Capitol today. While all that was going on, a group of young kids with disabilities also door-stopped a bunch of senators at their D.C. offices. They call themselves the Little Lobbyists. They carry around this big binder full of stories about kids who have stayed alive because of the health insurance they've got through Obamacare. They took that book all over the Capitol today. Nobody from Senator Heller's staff was able to meet with the Little Lobbyists, but to the senator's office staff's credit, they did give the kids ice cream, which is